It was yesterday we heard from Trish O'Duffy from Northern Suburbs Community Centre and Debbie Smith from Deloraine and Meander Neighbourhood Houses, both deeply concerned about the urgent need for secure long-term government funding. They warned that without it, the services thousands of Tasmanians rely on each week are at serious risk.
At the moment, where we are is we're funded for 2 FTE, which is 2 full-time equivalent. That leaves on nearly a daily basis people workers in the house on their own, which is not safe in today's climate. So what we're asking for is 5 FTE plus operational costs, with the option to work towards 6 FTE over the next 12 months.
Trish, have you gone to government before?
Yeah, we have, but it's always been piecemeal. Kim, and it's always been a pilot, and here we delivered this for a year. What we're asking for now is part of our core funding, not a pilot, but to be added into our core funding so that programmes that we deliver, like community gardens and like that, they don't fall over them when the funding ends, that they're ongoing.
Roger Jaensch is the spokesperson for Community Services. Good morning to you.
Good morning, Kim, and good morning to your listeners.
Thank you. Now, Treasury confirmed that had Dean Winter's no confidence motion succeeded, the 2025-26 budget would have included ongoing support for neighbourhood houses. Can you confirm that's the case and it is a commitment a re-elected Liberal government would follow through with?
Absolutely. We love our neighbourhood houses, and Liberal government has more than tripled the funding available for neighbourhood houses in the time that we've been in government. So if we hadn't been going to an election right now, there would have been $15 million in the 25-26 budget that would be flowing to our neighbourhood houses in this next financial year, which is an increase on the past and certainly a tripling since we first formed government. And we're funding them at just under $5 million across the 34 houses.
It's not $15 million, though, that goes to the neighbourhood houses. That $15 million includes the Capital Works program that's currently stalled in the Department of Health and Human Services, correct?
It does. That's the total that's available. Each house receives around $440,000 a year across the board, and we are committed to growing the core funding for our houses through indexation that we've fixed at 3%, which is above CPI. And we've also committed to extend the term of funding agreements with our houses to provide the certainty that those houses you heard from yesterday were talking about. So we committed at the last election to extend our funding agreements with community service organisations that provide a consistent level of servicing over time, things like neighbourhood houses for their core funding, to extend them out to 5 years so they have more certainty and spend less of their time reporting against a funding agreement and applying for a new one because it'll be happening less frequently. And that should help them to have some more stability and flexibility.
With that core funding, they're asking for 5 full-time staff plus operating costs. Will you commit to that?
We're growing it year on year, and we're adding other things that the houses are asking for, like new community connector positions and more hours for those across the houses to grow over time as well. An increase to 5 would be effectively a doubling of the core funding for the houses, and we're not in a position to offer that straight away. We are committed to what was in the budget that was tabled a month ago that we would be rolling out now if it wasn't for Dean Winter's election.
So they're asking now as an election promise for 5 full-time staff plus operating costs in their core funding, but you say that's something you can't commit to.
That's part of that's the ask I heard from them yesterday. What I understand that means, and we've seen a document from Neighbourhood Houses Tasmania, basically asking for a doubling of the funding for neighbourhood houses across the state.
And are you saying that's not possible?
We're not offering that at this stage. What we are offering is continuing to grow year on year and to enter into longer-term funding agreements with the houses and to respond to their needs as they arise through purpose-built, one-off grants and programs as well, because their needs do change and different needs arise over time.
So neighbourhood houses are a cost saver, not a cost. Could you name one other budget item that delivers more bang for buck in early intervention and community wellbeing than neighbourhood houses?
You're never going to get me to say that our neighbourhood houses aren't fantastic value for money. In every community that they operate around the state, they do a fantastic job. We are committed and have been over the last couple of budgets and since the last election to increase the certainty of funding for them with 5-year agreements, to increase the reach of the Community Connector program, to index their core funding year on year.
Now the community,
we stay absolutely committed to that. What we're not doing though is taking the budget that we tabled just a month ago, which took 6 months of development under very difficult circumstances, and we're just not going to double that budget and extend it across the forward estimates without a process like the budget building process that we've just been through. We need to do this. We need to not be making doubling things in a month after having just put down our budget. That's part of us being a responsible budget.
That's kind of a rudimentary way of looking at it, isn't it? Sure, the Community Connector funding helps, but it doesn't change core staffing. Is it time that we stop patching holes and properly funded what is the essential work these houses are doing every day?
I think what we can see as part of the increasing the funding period and the longer term funding agreements is a reassessment of what is core and what is fixed term funding as well. We do know that there have been initiatives that have been introduced some years ago that organisations like our neighbourhood houses have done on a fixed term basis, which have worked really well, which have continued to be invested in and expanded. I believe that as part of the relook at their longer term funding agreements, that there may be elements of fixed term funding that also get added into recurrent longer term funding as well.
Well, with respect,
and I would be looking closely at things like the Community Connector program as part of that.
Yeah, but the community need isn't waiting for a review. Community neighbourhood houses have told you exactly what's needed. They want funding for 5 FTEs plus operational costs. You're not agreeing to that though?
No, we've got lots of bids from lots of organisations in every possible sector who is asking us for, to consider their bids in a budget process. We've actually just spent the last year in a budget process, which resulted in the budget that we tabled just a month ago.
But again, can you name one other budget item that delivers more bang for buck in early intervention and community wellbeing than neighbourhood houses?
Look, right across government and community services, there are dozens, if not hundreds, of extraordinary, valuable and worthwhile things that we can be investing in. Our job as a government is to work with them to meet their needs as best we can, plan for future growth as well, but also manage the budget responsibly through the normal processes.
So the answer to the question, 5 full-time staff, funding for that plus operating costs in their core funding, you won't commit to it. It's a no.
I'm sorry, I can't commit to that today, but we do love our neighbourhood houses. We will work with them right across the state, the 34 neighbourhood houses. We're also talking to organisations and local communities who don't have a neighbourhood house right now and who want one. And we're talking with houses who are in premises and buildings that are no longer fit for purpose and who need substantial upgrades to them so they can continue delivering their services. But we'll continue working with each and every neighbourhood house to ensure that we are able to support them to continue providing their valuable services in their local community.
But to the question at hand, the answer is a no. Roger Jaensch there, the spokesperson for community services. Simone Zell is CEO of Neighbourhood Houses Tasmania. She was listening to Roger Jaensch. Good morning to you, Simone.
Good morning, Kim.
So there you have it. The answer was no.
Yes, it is disappointing. And on the other side of that, it is this acknowledgement of the great work that neighbourhood houses do and the value that they bring, which obviously is something that isn't disputed. And the figures that the minister's talking about are a patchwork of funding, and some of which are the capital investment funds that we haven't seen into our communities. So in fact, the funding that goes directly to the houses is significantly less than the amount that the minister said there.
Is it frustrating for you to hear that 15 million quoted, which includes the Capital Works program, as I mentioned, that's currently stalled in the Department of Health and Human Services?
Yeah, well, it is. It is frustrating because we actually really, really appreciate all the support that neighbourhood houses get all across the state. And, you know, they are the absolute experts in doing a huge amount with very little. And that really is very little. The fact is that the neighbourhood houses are funded for 2 core staff. And so these are really vibrant, busy hubs of activity with lots of volunteers helping to make sure that, you know, we have these welcoming spaces. And usually we're talking about all the fantastic things we're offering. Come on in. You know, we've got so much on offer, which is still true. But the stories that we don't tell are that our staff are really stretched. It's just not sustainable to only have 2 core staff at each of these houses to be able to, you know, deliver and engage and connect with the community in the way that they do.
Well, it's only fair, I guess, on Monday that we reach out to the other party, the other major party running in the election. So we will do that for you. But that was a firm no there from the Community Services spokesperson, Roger Jaensch. So what's next for you, Simone? Should they be elected?
Look, I'm really, really open to discussing with the minister, because I think there are quite a few new things that we've heard in there, and that is around committing to wrap up the patchwork of funding into that core funding that will be indexed year on year so that it doesn't actually decrease each year. So I'd really like, and the amount of funding that was committed in this budget was $9,000 per house. So that's very welcome, of course, but it's just simply not enough. And we do need to, for our candidates, to be really listening and to be really committed to investing in people, because these investments bring big returns. And so in actual fact, it does save money, saves huge amounts of money, because people aren't having to access expensive government systems and navigate crisis services.
Simone, thank you. Enjoy your weekend.
Thanks so much, Kim. You too.
Pleasure.
Bye.
Simone Zell there, CEO of Neighbourhood Houses Tasmania.